shining a light on the women creating an impact, leading organizations, and mission-focused strategic programs across the federal technology and consulting community. This is Impact. I am being joined today by Angela Hamlin, the CEO and President of Hamlin Consulting Services. Thank you for joining me today, Angela.
Oh, it is my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
First, let's start by telling me what it is you do over there as the CEO and President of Hamlin Consulting Services. Sounds very important.
Okay, well, Hamlin Consulting Services is a company that I started about 2 years ago. I've been in government contracting for about 25 plus years. Of course, I started when I was like 12.
Of
Um,
course.
and I started off as a developer, coding as a developer and an analyst, but I always knew, even in college, that I wanted to get into management. I always felt that I was a leader or I wanted to be the leader, nevertheless. So that was always my goal. But I did start at the bottom, so to speak, writing code and doing analysis. Then the first opportunity that came about that I got to be in project management, I took it. And I've stayed there and I've enjoyed it. So I've worked as a contractor, working for large Fortune 100 companies as well as small 8A companies, really small 40-person type shops over the course of my career. And worked my way up to VP of delivery. And that's my sweet spot. I love working with the customers, building those relationships, figuring out what it is that they need to solve their problems and putting a team in place to execute on that. And over the years of doing that, folks always told me, oh, Angela, you should go into business for yourself. You should go into business for yourself. But I didn't feel that I was ready to do that. I had two young kids at the time, and I didn't feel that I had time to dedicate to building my own business. So I continued to work for other folks. But about 3 years ago, I had an epiphany and I said, my kids are older now. I'm tired of doing things the way that other people want to do things. And I know that I have a better way of doing things. And I decided to branch out on my own officially to establish a business and grow a business.
And that's a scary step, but so rewarding.
Yes, yes, yes,
So
yes.
let's talk about your journey and what lessons you've learned along your professional journey and how they've influenced your leadership style.
Oh, wow. Yeah, there have been a lot of lessons that I have learned. I think if I could just highlight a few, one is communication is key, is in any relationship, communicate, communicate, communicate. I tend to over communicate. I'd rather you have too much information than not enough information. And I believe that when people understand the why, even if they don't like it, even if they don't agree with it, is easier to swallow. And when they understand the why, sometimes they will agree with it. And sometimes even champion the change or whatever that the focus is. So I've learned that you definitely have to communicate. The other thing that I've learned over my journey is that, being a good leader is not treating everyone the same. You have to give folks what it is that they need at that point in their career, both their professional career and in their personal life. And not everyone needs the same thing. So it's important to see everyone, to hear them, to understand where they are on their journey, professionally and personally, where they want to go, what motivates them, what excites them, what it is they like, what it is they don't like, and build that rapport. So seeing your team members, seeing your colleagues, and understanding what value they bring to the table, having compassion for their position, what it is that they have to deal with, and what their job entail, and how they do that job is important. So I've learned that is really important to build that rapport, and that takes time. And I find that when I'm mentoring folks and I talk about that, It's challenging for them because it takes time and effort, and you have to be very intentional, and it doesn't happen overnight. But when it does happen, it comes together and you're able to really create a team in the true sense of the word and not just a group of folks working on the same project, but a team that really feel responsible and obligated to one another. And that's what I do. That's what I like to do and what I think that I do very well, create teams that can come in and fix problems for the customer. So, and also leading by example. At one point in my career, I managed a command center at Centers for Medicare Services when they rolled out healthcare.gov.
Mhm.
And it is a 24/7 operation
Yeah.
round the clock. And obviously, folks had to work holidays, weekends, bad weather, good weather, always had to be there. I always made a point to be there with them, holidays and sometimes at night and, to get to see everyone. And folks would say to me, "Oh, Angela, why are you here? You're a VP. Why are you here? No VPs are here at, 9 o'clock at night on Christmas Day." And I said, "Well, I asked you to be here, so I'm here with you. What can I do? How can I support you?" So leading by example, because folks are always watching you, and you always have to be aware, have that self-awareness, and carry yourself the way that you want others to carry themselves as well. And last but not least, respect is earned. I've unfortunately have had several managers who led by intimidation.
Mhm.
Never a good thing. Respect is earned and is something that is earned over time. And I make a conscious effort to respect others and to earn others' respect.
That's one of the good things about being the CEO and president is not having to work for those managers that shouldn't necessarily be a manager because they don't have the proper skills.
Absolutely.
So, what role has mentorship played in your career? And can you share an instance where a mentor's guidance significantly, I can never say that word, I don't know why, impacted your leadership approach?
That's an interesting question. And I've had conversations with folks about mentoring and being a mentee, as well as mentoring other folks. And I love to mentor folks. But interesting enough, I've never had a mentor in the traditional sense of the word. Obviously, there have been several folks along the way, both male and female, that have provided guidance and advice and have helped me along the way. But to have that dedicated belly button over a long period of time, I've never really had that. And I think I've compensated for that by I am a student always. I love learning. I love taking classes online, in person. I love reading. I love observing people. I am a people person. And what I do is those folks who I admire, that I think have good leadership qualities, I study them. I watch them. I read about them. And even those folks who have qualities that I think are not good leadership qualities, I observe them, I watch them, and watch the correlation of what it is that they do and the impact that it has. So I think that over the course of years, I've learned from different folks in leadership positions, those that were doing a really good job, as well as those that were not doing a good job. I learned what to do to get the results that I wanted, and I learned what not to do to get the results
Yes.
that I wanted. So mentoring for me has been that, but it has been, I wouldn't say a challenge, but now that I think about it, I don't think that I've had that mentor. And now going out, establishing my own company, I actually look for that and I gravitate towards folks, male and female, but mostly women, that I believe are doing what I want to do and are where I want to be, and building those relationships and building that rapport, which I never really saw a lot of that. Now in the position that I'm in, and there's so many different organizations, and like your organization and the events that are coming up, have getting access to folks that I didn't have access to before, and I'm really taking advantage of that. And I think that that's important.
It's very, very important. It's very important, even if you don't physically, like you said, have a mentor, having those people to look up to is really great. And being that person for someone else is really great too.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely.
So, in your opinion, what are some of the most common barriers that women face in leadership roles today, and what strategies can be implemented to overcome them?
Hmm. Well, unfortunately, there are a lot.
Yeah.
And you have the usual suspects. But I think one of the barriers that I have experienced is that oftentimes at the table, there are men. That the round table is filled with typically European men. And if there is a woman at the table, usually there's only one, if you're lucky,
Mhm. Yep.
two, maybe. And I think one of the challenge that we as women have, and although there are many, many women who are mentoring other women and opening doors for other women, and that's wonderful, and I appreciate that, and I aspire to be that as well. Unfortunately, I believe that there are also many women who know that there's usually only one or two women at the table. So they want to ensure that they're that one. Um,
Hmm.
so they may be less open to extending that hand to another woman or someone who they believe may take their spot. So, unfortunately, although there are a lot of women that are willing to help with open arms and do whatever they can do to support other women, unfortunately, there are still those that may want to help and have good intentions, but are very much afraid that if I do too much, you may take my spot. So maybe I won't share, as much as I should, or everything, and try to hold things tight to my vest because there's only room for one of us here at the table. And that's unfortunate. And that is why in my company, and one of several reasons why I decided to start my company, is to create an environment of diversity and inclusion where everyone at the table does not look like me, act like me, think like me. I think it's very difficult, either consciously or subconsciously, for folks to be open to folks who don't think like them, look like them, act like them, come from
Right.
where they come from. That can be scary because it's the unknown, but I welcome that opportunity.
And I also think it's good for your company to have all these different diverse opinions and thoughts and people at the table as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's something to be said about that. And it goes back to seeing everyone, right? And valuing everyone and understanding and appreciating everyone's worth and what they bring to the table and hearing them out. So I'm very conscious of listening to folks and hearing what they're saying and understanding where they're coming from and why they feel the way that they feel, whether I agree with it or not.
Hmm.
But just understanding that journey that had put them where they are, and put them in that mindset and of that opinion.
So, how do you define authenticity in leadership, and what steps do you take to remain true to yourself while navigating the demands of your CEO role?
That is a challenge because I think that they're, unfortunately, and of course, I'm a big movie buff. You see the leaders, the folks who make all the money being some
Hmm.
backstabbers and manipulative and conniving and all that good stuff.
Yep.
But it doesn't have to be that way. And for me, I think being authentic, Hamlin Consulting Services, abbreviation, the acronym, of course, in government, we always have acronyms, right? HCS
Hmm.
also stands for honesty, compassion, and service, right?
Oh, that's
So
nice.
So that's being authentic to me. And that's my strategy. And those are the ethics and morals that I work and operate by. So you have to be true to yourself and also be open and honest with your colleagues and team members. And being honest is showing respect towards each other, being self-aware, adhering to a code of ethical conduct and principles, and being truthful, right? Being ethically correct and legally correct in what you do. Sometimes you have to make very difficult decisions because that may be what's best for the organization or what's best to satisfy and service this particular customer that folks may not be a champion of, may not be thrilled about, but being honest about why that's the decision, how you come to that decision, it goes a long way. Then compassion, acts of kindness, understanding where folks are, back to seeing folks, understanding their value, understanding how they got to where they are, and creating that team environment, a true team where there is an obligation, a responsibility to one another, and not just the team that works for Hamlin Consulting Services, but also the extended team, the customer team, and all of the stakeholders. And last but not least, service. And service to me is making that connection with people that you are providing your service to, making that connection, having that experience of putting yourself in their shoes, understanding their pain points and helping them, working with them to come up with a solution that's going to resolve some of those pain points, right? And when you make those connections, it lasts a lifetime, right? So even when you're no longer working with those folks, you have formed that relationship because of that meaningful service, and it stands the test of time. So you can always go back to that person for guidance, for advice, for help, and what have you. So that is what we do at Hamlin Consulting Services: honesty, compassion, and service, meaningful service.
I love it. What advice would you give to young women aspiring to be leaders, and how can they best prepare themselves for some of those challenges that lie ahead?
Well, what I always tell people, never get content, never get complacent. Always look to improve yourself personally and professionally, spiritually. Being in health and human services arena for the majority of my federal contracting career and providing support to major health and human services type programs, it is near and dear to me. So never get content. Always look to learn something new, different ways of doing things, be open-minded, continue to learn. So in that way you're always improving upon yourself. And don't be afraid of, and I don't like using the word failure, but don't be afraid of less successful endeavors, It's inevitable. Everything is not going to work out the way that you want them to. Unfortunately, there are going to be bad times, but you got to take advantage of that, learn from those moments that where things did not work out well. I've been in some situations where I went kicking and screaming because it's new. This is not a good situation. I'm not gonna like this. But after I got over the initial shock, it was like, okay, what can I learn from this? How can I make it better? How can I do my part to make a difference, to have an impact? And even if that impact is on just one person, on one project, helping out one stakeholder with solving their problem, then it's a win, right? So I believe that as a somewhat spiritual person, I believe that everything happens for a reason. You're put in situations and we're given burdens for a reason. And we need to learn from them, and take them with us. So my advice would be always continue to learn and grow and improve upon yourself because there's always room for improvement. And never get discouraged when things don't work out well, but take it as a lessons learned and figure out what you need to do the next time around that'll make you a better person, a better leader, a better developer, a better help desk support person, whatever the case may be.
Right.
How can I make the most out of this experience?
I love it. Angela, this has been a great conversation. Thank you so much for hopping on and talking about us today.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for listening. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you're keeping up to date on the latest episodes, and learn more at govforum.io.